Welcome to On Practicing Guitar. I'm Christian Botta, and today we're going to take a look at one of my favorite songs, and a song that many people love. It's called Little Wing. It's by Jimi Hendrix. So we're going to do an acoustic version. Obviously, we got the acoustic guitar here, and it's pretty basic in a way, good for a beginner or early intermediate player that's getting many or some of the main techniques together, one of which is you're going to have to use your pinky. So that figures in several different spots. The rhythm is very simple, and it's just a great song to start out with and try and bring up your level of play, and then eventually you can embellish it and do all sorts of amazing things with it, as you must have seen already. So let's just dive right in and we'll look at the song. I just played it for you once. I'll play it again in numerous places. So first of all, the strumming. It's a slow ballad, so the strumming is very similar to Knockin' on Heaven's Door, which you might know. It goes like this. There's a downstroke on every beat, 1, 2, 3, 4, and in between, on beat 2, we have down, down, up. So that works basically for the whole song, and there's a little variation, 2 little variations that I put in, but that'll basically do it for you. Etc. So the song is 9.5 bars long, kind of an unusual length for a song. At least that's, the basic arrangement, which just repeats. So I like to break it up into 3 little sections. And the first section is extremely easy. That's E minor, G, A minor, E minor. So kind of a little circular progression. You might notice that I sometimes drag my pick across the strings. That's called resciato. Just kind of makes sense in a song like this to add that in every now and then. Okay, so after you've got that part is so easy. That's one of the reasons why you should try this song if you haven't done it already. Half of the song almost gone, and just all so easy. I'm using a 4-fingered G chord. You can do it with 3, no problem. Slightly different sound. You got the open D string there. But most professionals play the 4-fingered version. It has various advantages, one of which is switching to D. You've got the 3rd finger down there. So I'm going to use this 4-fingered version. Okay, so the next thing that happens, we go into the second line. The second line is where almost all of the action is. Kind of a common strategy. Things perk up in the middle, right? So the first thing that happens is we've got to move on to this B minor chord. Okay, so B minor is a chord that, in your basic chords, B minor is not in that group of just like the easiest chords. There are many different ways of doing it. But what I'm going to suggest here is a 4-fingered version. So you use all 4 fingers. It's going to be like this. You may notice, if you've ever heard the song Pinball Wizard, that is the first chord. So you got to try and mute the lower 2 strings if possible, or miss them. I recommend aiming towards the top 3 strings. This is the top, this down here would be the bottom. Okay, so talking about pitch. Alright, so to get from E minor to B minor, it really helps to do a little guide finger there. A guide finger is when you have a note in two chords on the same string. So you can sort of slide to it with a finger, and that finger is called the guide finger. You might get a little squeak in there, no big deal. Okay, so up till now you'll notice that is 5 measures with 1 chord to a measure. And so what happens here is that what's known as the harmonic rhythm, that is like the pace of chord changes, is going to accelerate. So instead of just 1 chord to a bar, for a brief period, we're going to have 2 chords to a bar, right? So we start, let's just start on the second line from B minor, right? Okay, so we've made it up to third line. Okay, so from B minor to A minor, there's no special trick there. A minor is one of the most basic chords, like E, same exact shape, right? You just gotta grab that chord. Your left hand is gonna memorize the shape, and you just jump to it. So, tiny bit of space, it's okay. Alright, so now there is a little trick. So you went from A minor to C. Okay, so that's one of the easiest chord changes. It's really, really nice because there are actually 2 notes in common. The first finger and the second finger are on the same notes, right? Third finger has to move. So you just want to kind of pick it up and move it over there. You can maybe relax your grip on the second finger note. Whatever you do, don't pick up the first finger. That is not... It could work, you know, when my first finger just kind of stays there. What you really want to do is train your fingers to have like one finger staying in the same place while another finger moves. That's called independence. So this little change here fosters that technique of independence. And as I was saying, if I may have said or have forgot to, that's one of the things about this piece that's so great. When you boil it down to its basics, there are all these little techniques that you're going to use all the time. One of them is the independence, another is the guide finger, and so on. Okay, so we've got A minor to C, and then C to G. It's a change that you just got to come to grips with. There are some people that do it in a different way, but believe me, you have to know numerous ways of playing G. So the whole hand is going to move, and the wrist changes too. You're going from like basically a kind of a wrist position like this to one that's more like this. The G chord is, the wrist is sort of pointing out, as you can see here. So turn the wrist and the fingers move too. Don't worry about it too much, but it's a good thing to be aware of. Okay, so now the toughest part, the F chord. You know, the B minor chord is hard, but the F chord is something that many people have a little bit of a problem with. So if you don't have your F chord totally together yet, this is a good place to start. Basically, the trouble is that you've got to bar 2 strings while the other fingers remain curved. So it's like a little bit of a irony there, or a contrast, a dichotomy, however you want to look at it. And then you also have to try not to get these lower strings. You don't want this. It doesn't sound good. The A string doesn't sound great either, but you want to avoid that. I generally just reach over with my third finger and kind of touch it a tiny bit. There are other ways of playing it. There's a 5-finger one. That's the one that most people chord change. Some people will be tempted to play a huge bar chord. I kind of avoid that chord unless I really need it. Okay, so that's your big change, or one of the big changes in the piece. Another reason to learn this song, C, G, F. There's a million songs with C, G, and F, and so if you know this, you'll know those. Okay, so one of the things that you may notice if you look at the chart is you'll see that it comes to this spot where there is a measure that says 2-4. The majority, all the rest of the piece is in 4-4. We know what 4-4 is. That means a quarter note gets one beat, and there are 4 beats per measure. So that's your standard 1, 2, 3, 4, like you'll hear Dee Dee Ramone say at the beginning of all the Ramone songs. They go very fast. This one is very, very slow. The tempo, I may mention, is somewhere around 70 beats per minute. Not a bad idea to know that. Maybe use a metronome or, just to think about it. Can't get a whole lot slower than that. 60, 55, very slow. All right, so we've got this 2-4 bar of C. Why is it there? It just works for the melody. That's essentially it. It has nothing to do with, okay, we're going to have a fancy, bar here. I'm not going to sing it right now, but it just feels very natural. The melody flows. You need that chord. It makes the progression, but it's just sort of cut short a little bit. You could try playing it with 4 beats, if you wanted to. Wouldn't be the same song. So, from A minor. We're on to our third line, which is sort of like the conclusion, the lyrics, everything comes to rest there, and you have this nice little pause. And you need to have something in there that makes it interesting. This is a technique that's used in classical music, every kind of music, where you've got your little pause, and then there's a flourish of some sort that lets you know that it's not over yet, we're going to go back to the beginning, and we're going to start again. So in this case, we have a D chord, and we're going to embellish it. That means to add something of interest, basically, with this note on top, which is a G. We're going to play that with the pinky. So what you do is you keep all 3 fingers of the D chord down, and then you just add the pinky in and take it out as needed. So it goes, the sus4 chord goes for 2 beats. So this whole little section is 2 bars long. Notice that we've come back to 4-4. After our 2-4 C chord, we're back to 4-4. Okay, so it switches back. And so during this little spot, I decided to just add in an extra down-up, right? So those are 2 16th notes. It's actually the second half of the 4th beat of this bar that has D and D sus4. So instead of just going like this, I'm going. Makes it a little harder to get to the next chord because you got to perfectly sort of time it. But it doesn't take all that much practice, and you just do it a little bit each time, whatever, it'll come together, no problem. Important thing to know is that there are many songs that use that exact rhythm for the whole song, or for most of it. So really good rhythm to know. At this point, it's just adding a little something to make things a little more interesting at the end. Usually that happens in a piece. If the very end of the song is just really, really easy, that's kind of going to be a bit of a surprise. Usually there's something in there, a little trick of some sort that makes it more interesting. So then right after that, there's kind of a pause. You'll notice in the chart that there's one beat that's sort of missing. Goes back to the beginning. more time, and on my blog, which is called On Practicing Guitar, you can see the charts and you can read all of this stuff, a reiteration of all the ideas that we've been through, plus some close-ups of the right hand and the left hand, and you can get in touch with me there on Practicing Guitar. My name is Christian Botta. Here is one more shot on Little Wing, one of my favorite songs. Thanks for tuning in. Again, my name is Christian Botta. This is On Practicing Guitar, and hope to see you the next time. Take care.